Okay, picking up from where we left off last time. This time we're talking about Active Directory sites and services. What are Active Directory sites and subnets and AD links within them and replication? I mentioned a lot of these things in the last video and a couple of videos prior to that one. I wanted to go over these things because you're actually going to see these within your organization as you continue your progression as becoming a systems administrator. So when we talk about the AD sites, those are mainly going to be used to group your branch offices or branch locations that are spread around geographically into different locations for that matter. So your subnets that goes along with those. So every object within AD or within your organization is going to have a subnet tied to it. The computers, the printers, some cameras, IP cameras, things of that nature are going to be on the network, and they're going to have an IP address associated with them. Well, in order to reach those things, they need to have a site link associated with them. So the AD site link tells us which way we're going to go along the network to actually get to those particular objects on the network. So in this example here, if we take a look at it, we can see here we have multiple site links here. As you can see here, we have a going from our testlab.local location. So coming from that domain, we have our other offices. Because all of these offices and these other branches fall within this same domain, testlab.local, we can see here we have 1 gig links, we have 100 megabit links, we have a 56K link. So whenever there's time for someone from the branch office over here, let's say this ATL office, they need to access resources over here in the data center 1. What happens is inside of sites and services, we'll specify links within there and which path things should take. And so each link has a cost associated with it. Cost meaning how reliable is that link. So we talk about reliability. Speed-wise, as it goes, this 1 gigabit link here is faster than the 100 megabits link here. But if we know that this 1 gigabit link here costs us a lot of money, we can turn our cost down on it, and we can start putting more cost over here towards this 100 megabit link. And this 1 gig link will kind of become a backup link, if that makes sense, because we're going to use it from a cost standpoint versus using it from a reliability standpoint, because we know that it's a faster link. It just costs us more to operate it, but it's good to have in case this backup link goes down. Same thing goes for connecting over here to the data center. So we have resources over here. We might have admins in this office over here that manage servers in this office, in this data center over here. So for that matter, we have a 56K backup link. So in case this 1 gig link goes down, we'll fall back to this 56K link here. It'll be slower, but the admins over here in the Miami office will be able to fix what any issues might be happening or occurring over here in the data center 1 and assist the folks over here in this domain over here to resolve this issue. But then you can see here, going from the domain to the data center, we have high links here. We have a 10 gig link here, and we have a 100 megabit link here. We would definitely use this link here as a backup link, and our primary link would be our 10 gig. So I hope that kind of explains kind of what we're looking at when we're talking about as we go through the examples of setting this up within Active Directory sites and services. And then we'll talk about site replication. Site replication is going to be used to actually replicate the objects around, just like it says here, replication. So this is going to be how the user accounts get from one site to the other site. So even though everything stems from this testlab.local domain here, but we have users over here, over here, over here. And even if we have domain controllers in these other offices, we still have to get the data from here to here, because remember, it all needs to stay in sync. And that's where the replication topology comes into play. Okay, so we'll jump right into the lab and start setting this up. Okay, we're now in our lab AD01 environment. And again, over in our server manager, and again, we get there from the bottom here. We come over to tools. We're going to go over to Active Directory, sites and services. Kind of select that from here, wait on that to pop up. So now that it's up, I want to actually go through and explain the different items within here. So we have our site. So by default, we have our default site here. And this is going to be where everything is going to fall. Right now, nothing is organized or anything. We just have a default site. If we expand that, we can see we have servers here, and we have our two servers here. And you can see here from the type here, these are global catalog servers. That's what the GC is there. And so if we go up here to the top, we go to sites. Again, we want to look at our other sites that we had that we talked about in our slide. So from here, we're going to go ahead and say we need to start creating our sites. And because our organization has decided now we're going to open up an ATL office. We don't have to go through and build all of them here, but we'll go through the process of building them out. And by default, they all will report to this default site link until we start building the other site links within here. So over here, we're going to build the ATL office. So it's going to be the ATL office, and we're going to select the site link here. And it's the default site link. We're going to say OK here. So now the ATL office has been established here, and it's talking about the domain controllers need to be moved here, and we're going to say OK here. So now we can take a look here, and we look at servers here. There are no servers here. So as we go through and we create the different subnets, as computers and servers and things like that get added, they'll start getting associated with this particular site. But we can't do anything yet. If we go here to properties of this particular thing, you see here, there's nothing here. Everything's kind of blank. If we right click on the ATL office itself, this particular site, we go to properties of it, we're going to see that it is still associated with the default site link. So we go to location and objects, there's nothing going to be here right now. So now we got to go back up here again to our, we have our sites here. We can see here now we have a site. We're going to go here to our transport. And if we expand our transport, we have two types. We have IP transport and SMTP transport, simple mail transport protocol or IP. We're always going to use IP. One is that it's more reliable than SMTP, but SMTP can be used as a backup. So if we come into our IP here and we go right here to our default site link, we can come into here and we can select properties here, and you can see here there are two offices now associated with this particular site link. And the replication that happens between these particular sites is down here at the bottom. You can see here I replicate every 180 minutes. By the lowest we can go down to is 15 minutes. So by default, it's going to be 180 minutes. Here's our cost here, our cost of reliability of the link going out to these two, and it's 100 right now. So if we wanted to add a second link, we would actually do that from here. We'd actually come in here, we'd right click, and we'd say new site link. And then we start associating other things with it. Same thing goes for a new site link bridge. We came in here if we had other ones. Unfortunately, right now we do not. But once we create other site link bridges, these are what we call bridge heads. And these are more or less sit at the edge of the network and take the information and pass it down to the other servers, other domain controllers within the site. So that's what that's going to be used for. When you right click here and you're going to select there. The find feature lets you find the servers within the sites. New, and then you can say new site link or new site link bridge if you need it to. Same thing again for your find, and then your properties just as what we just looked into. So we're going to come down here to subnets. As you can see here, there are no subnets defined. If we come here, we're going to right click and we're going to say new subnet. And so each site is going to have subnets associated with it. And it's talking about the prefix. When it's talking about the prefix, it's saying what's the CIDR notation or the Class C address. If you went through any of your early entry level certifications or just knowledge of networking or computers, your subnet is going to be the, I guess more or less this is going to be the, this will be a /24 for this matter. This will be a class, what we say a Class C. So it's going to be the prefix for this one is going to be site.0. And for this, it's going to be for the default site. So we already know that. And this particular one here is going to be a /24. And we know that it's associated with this particular site here. We're going to say OK here. And so now we have a subnet here. So we can now come back in here again. We can add another subnet because remember the ATL office, that's going to be 10.20. So that's also going to still be a class C because we have a lot of folks there. So it would be like this, and then you would just add 24, select the site, and say OK. So now, if we right-click on this particular site here, go to properties, or subnet, sorry, we can see now this is associated with the ATL office. And we can also select a drop-down if we needed to change that. So this is going to be associated with that particular office. Location, we can come into here and we can type in ATL, and we can say OK here. And same goes for the next view. And so we'll go ahead and create those and come right. Okay, now off camera, I went on and created the other sites within here, and I've created the other subnets. Those have all now been associated with each other. So if we go here to properties for this one, we can see that one's associated now with the Miami office. We can go here to this one as well, select properties here. We can see here it's associated with our data center now. So now what we want to talk about are these site links. So before we talked about, up here at the top, we talked about our transport. We have this default site link. So on the diagram from before, we talked about if we needed to take a different route. So if we look at our diagrams here again, we see here we have different site links. Remember, each one of these are a link. We have a 1 gig, a 100, a 10 gig, things like that. So what we have to do now is go through and start creating these particular links for our traffic to go down that are associated with the particular offices. Okay, so now back over in our server environment, we can go ahead and create our new transport link. As we see right now, we still only have our default transport link. We can either right-click on our particular transport here and create it right here. We can create a new site link bridge if we had another server over in the other environment. In this case, we don't. So we can create a new site link bridge. We can do it from here. We can also right-click in the white space and do it from here as well. So we're going to right-click here, create a new site link. This is going to be for the ATL office. I'm going to just say add there. And we're going to give it a name, and we're going to say that it's going to be the ATL link. We'll go ahead and say OK here. Oh. So that's going to be, I forgot. Yeah, that's actually going to need to connect back to our default site. So we got to add that one into there. And so this is how the two are going to communicate for here. So there's our site links there. So you can see our costs are still the same right now. We would do the same thing. So if we need in our example, we have the ATL office communicating with the Miami office, we'll do that as well. So we have the ATL office, we have the Miami office, and we'll just call this so there we go. And we're going to go ahead and say OK there. So now that that's been created, we could go through and create the next one as well, just one to the data center if need be. So we can go and do that, and that would be from the default site over to the data center. So we'll go ahead and do that one as well. Doesn't matter which one you select first here. You don't have to move them up and down or anything like that. So you can go ahead and click on OK now. So there we go. So now we've got those all created. We can then come back into here and we can start setting what our metrics are going to be, what our replication time is going to be there. So we're going to come on down here to our default site. Currently, right now, we haven't built the other one, so we don't have any servers there, but we're going to use these guys here as the example, and it's going to be the same regardless. So when you select your particular site, there are properties here that are associated with it. So you can see here our NTDS settings here. You can right-click on this and go to properties here. And you can see here your default cache and things of that nature. If you have universal groups that are going to be coming across this, you're going to come in here and set these particular things. You can change your schedule in here. Currently, right now, it's set for every hour. And so if you needed to tune this a little bit more to be a little quicker, and this is going to be for the replication between servers, not so much as between sites. This is between the servers themselves. So we're going to say cancel here, and you can see here it's talking about the default site there. So we're going to say cancel here. We can come down here to our server here, and you can see here, here's our DNS setting here. As part of Active Directory, that is showing here. So you can right click on these if you like and go into them. There's not going to be any objects within here. So we can go ahead and extend the server here, still go to our NTDS settings there again. And here's where our replication between the servers has been placed. So these are automatically generated, and this was done because the servers were already in the same site together. And you can see here, replication from this particular site. If I needed to move this particular server, let's say that I decided to move this server into the data center, down here, what I would do is come up here and right click on it and select move. But because this was automatically generated, I'm going to get an error message here. Well, not so much as an error message, just a warning message saying, do you want to remove this automatically generated link here? And once you remove that, what it'll more or less do is just breaks the replication between these guys. It'll have to be reset back up. I can say yes here and say, I want to go ahead and move this to another site. Well, because I don't have the IP address on this particular server done with the same IP as that particular site, we'll get a replication error. But because I don't have that done already, I'm going to say cancel. But if so, it would just move that right into this particular site if that was the case. The next thing that you want to look at here is the replication. So if I come back over here to the particular server, I can right click on this particular server. I can come here and I can actually create a new server settings within here. Come down here to all tasks. I can find other servers within this particular site if I needed to. If I click here on server here at the top, I can delegate control to a different admin within my environment. I can come down here to new and add a new server into this particular site. Let's say a server was not there. I can come into there and add that into there. So another thing I can do from here is from the all tasks is delegate control and go over here to properties. Same thing from before. If I come down here to the second server here, and I'm going to expand it and go right here, you can see here that it's saying it's going to replicate from this server to this server. So this is how the replication is done. If I come up here to this top server here and look at it, it's going to replicate from this particular server to this server. So if I right click on it, select properties, come down here to the different server. If I had another server within here and I said, you know what, I don't want to replicate to this one, I can change that by just selecting it. Because I only have these two domain controllers that are in this site currently right now that we've built throughout this series, I can only replicate to the two right here. There were more. I could select it, select OK. That server would then be in this environment. So if I come up here to properties again, and I can go here and I can change my schedule again, like as I talked about before. If I needed to replicate more often, say cancel here. Another thing I can do from here is I can go ahead and replicate the traffic right now. So if I had just created a user and this particular server was over in the Atlanta office, and that user was standing at the front desk, and they're like, I really need to get onto my computer, I can go ahead, instead of waiting the 30 minutes or the 15 minutes for AD to replicate to get that account over to here, I can come into here, right click and say replicate now. So it tells me here that replication that the Active Directory services has been replicated. All right, so at that point, anything that was on this server is now on the AD02 server, is the way that the replication works. Okay. Okay, so now that that's been done, that really brings us to the end of this video. Again, I mean, your sites and services is going to be useful for grouping your particular branch offices and grouping your servers into locations together. Again, that's going to be helpful when we start talking about printers and file servers, and when you start talking about group policies, because you can assign group policies to these particular sites. You have a result sets of policies and things that you can do from here to actually see what's actually going to happen. And we'll get into those things when we start talking about group policies and things of that nature. And we'll go through here and click through some more and assign group policies to these particular things. So what can happen at these particular sites? Let's say that we might assign a group policy that says these users over here can use Word, but the folks in the data center, we don't want Word to be run inside of the data center at all, or Excel. So we can assign a group policy to the servers that are in that particular site at that level. Normally we do it at the OU level, but I really wanted to just say that we can actually do it from here as well. All right, well, I hope that was informative. And again, I want to thank you for viewing, and please leave any comments or ask any questions, and I'll be sure to get back to you and answer them. Thank you.